Ugami was the world's most feared assassin, a man who never failed a single mission. But after a mysterious insect bite turned him into a middle school kid, his entire life changed overnight. Now, the legendary killer had to hide his identity, survive school life, and uncover the truth behind the transformation before it was too late. The story opened with a 40-year-old man named Ugami, who worked under the most dangerous and powerful syndicate that killed people on contract. This time, Ugami was assigned to eliminate a group of men who had stolen a box of money. His boss gave him the mission, and he quickly reached the spot where he spotted several armed men. He wasted no time and engaged them in combat. The fight was swift and brutal. He killed all the members, one by one with ease, and none of them had the ability to stop him. Ugami was a fully trained and professional killer who had never failed a single mission in his life. He eliminated every last one of them, recovered the box of money, and returned to his young assistant. However, when they opened the box, Ugami was shocked. Their information had been wrong inside the box. Instead of money, there was a wasp's nest. After seeing this, they both left the place and checked into a hotel, where they began discussing what it meant. They assumed it was a sample belonging to a pharmaceutical company that was experimenting on wasps. Despite this theory, they were troubled because they did not know the full truth. Ugami then headed home. His house was completely empty and silent. Ugami had divorced his wife, and she had taken their daughter with her. He now lived alone, but his daughter was always on his mind. She had left his life for one reason: Ugami had never given his family enough time. Whenever his boss assigned him a mission, he never refused the order. This had broken his family apart. As he sat there thinking about his daughter, a wasp flew into his room and stung him on the neck. He felt intense pain throughout his body. The scene then shifted to the lab of his ex-wife, Eri, who was a professional scientist and also worked under the same syndicate as Ugami. When Ugami woke up, he had transformed into a middle school kid. It shocked everyone around him, as nothing like this had ever happened before. He told Eri the truth that a wasp had bitten him. The most important detail was that although his body had changed into that of a child, his fighting skills and memories remained completely intact. Eri handed him a mirror, and when Ugami saw his reflection, he was completely stunned. He begged his ex-wife to find an antidote and restore him to his original form. Eri knew it would not be easy, and told him she needed a great deal of time to find a solution. Shortly after, Ugami's boss contacted him with a new mission to keep an eye on his daughter, who attended a middle school. Ugami flatly refused, but when his boss offered him a generous sum of money, he agreed. He had never liked school life, even as a child, and had never attended properly. Nevertheless, he changed into a school uniform and made his way to the school, but with one clear purpose in mind. His assistant had already gathered a small but important piece of information. The wasps had been experimented on by a well-known and powerful pharmaceutical company. The owner's daughter also attended the same school. The assistant told Ugami that he had one chance to befriend her, and, through her, obtain the antidote that could restore him to normal. However, Ugami's first day at school did not go well. When he introduced himself to the class, the students laughed at him because his introduction was strange and dull. Embarrassed, he quietly took his seat. After class, a group of girls also mocked him, calling him creepy. Ugami did not like it. He told his assistant about what had happened, and added bitterly that none of them knew who he really was, the boy who had handled weapons at their age. His assistant, Nikota, encouraged him and gave him the confidence to return. The next day, Ugami went back to school, and something unexpected happened. As he sat through the lesson, he genuinely enjoyed it. For the first time, he found himself engaged in class. After finishing his school assignments, he sat quietly and cried, not out of sadness, but out of pride. It was the first time in his life that he had completed schoolwork with a feeling of happiness. His entire career had been built on taking lives, but this felt different. This felt good. After class ended and he stepped outside, Ugami noticed a man attacking students near the school and terrifying the girls. Seeing that the girls were around the same age as his daughter, something stirred inside him. He quickly used the smoke cover and launched a fierce attack on the man, striking him hard and repeatedly. The girls immediately thought it was Ugami who had done it, but he denied it, telling them that a stranger had appeared and defeated the attacker. Then he slipped away. When Ugami's ex-wife saw the news on television, she smiled. She knew that although Ugami's body looked like a child's, the strength within him had not changed one bit. The next day, Ugami's classmates decided to create a group chat for their class to discuss lessons, the syllabus, and other school matters. They asked Ugami to share his number first. He hesitated, but eventually agreed and joined the group. It did not take long for the chat to overwhelm him. Every student flooded the group with endless, pointless messages about everything and nothing, and Ugami found the whole thing deeply irritating. He left the group that same night. The The next day, when he arrived at school, the girls he had saved from the attacker were furious with him. None of them understood why he had left the chat group. Ugami calmly explained that he did not like groups where nothing useful was shared. Every student chatted endlessly for fun and never sent a single message related to studying, so he had left. The girls had nothing to say to that, and they all walked into the classroom together. It was the first time Ugami laid eyes on Norin, the daughter of the pharmaceutical company's owner. She sat quietly at her desk, keeping entirely to herself. Later, she left the class and made her way to the school grounds, where she entered a running tournament and won the race. The result stunned Ugami. Every student cheered for her, though many of the boys watched her with inappropriate eyes. He reported everything to Nikota, telling him that the girl was extremely popular in school. Nikota advised him to approach her and try to build a friendship. Ugami felt a flicker of hesitation. His heart was still that of a grown man, but he gathered his courage, walked up to Norin, and attempted to speak with her. She immediately shut him down. She told him sharply never to speak to her again. Embarrassed and stung, Ugami walked out of the classroom, quietly seething, not at her, but at himself. No girl saw him as anything but strange and unsettling. Determined to understand her better, he asked some of the other girls about Norin. They told him she was not singling him out. She treated every boy who approached her the same way. They also warned him that while Norin appeared beautiful and composed on the outside, she was difficult to be around. She rarely spoke kindly even to other girls. They told him to keep his distance. That was when Ugami understood why she always sat alone in silence. When school ended, Ugami made his way home. Along the route, he spotted a ramen shop and stepped inside. He was starving. The moment he walked through the door, he froze. Standing behind the counter, serving food to customers, was Norin. He had never imagined in his life that the daughter of a millionaire would be working in a ramen shop. He quietly took a seat and said nothing. When Norin came to take his order, she showed no recognition. He ordered a bowl of soup and sat there, his mind turning over what he was seeing. Then the food arrived. The moment he took the first bite, something shifted in him. The ramen was extraordinary. The taste was unlike anything he had eaten before in his entire life, and he found himself completely absorbed in it. After the shop closed and the last customer had left, Norin came to him with narrowed eyes. She told him not to leave until she said so. Then she demanded to know how he had found the shop. It was far from school, and she had made sure of that. Ugami told her plainly that the shop sat along his route home. Norin fell silent for a moment, visibly troubled. She thought about what would happen if other students found out she worked there. She then looked at him and told him to keep it secret, to say nothing to anyone at school, and to stop trying to speak to her there. Ugami asked her directly why she worked in a shop when her background gave her every comfort money could offer. Norin was quiet for a moment, then she told him the truth. She did not want excessive wealth. She wanted to live a simple and happy life. She had grown tired of a world where her father's associates visited their home and looked at her the way they did men who only wanted to marry her for access to money and power. Unable to bear it any longer, she had left and gone to live with her uncle, the owner of the ramen shop. She spent most of her time there and helped out whenever she could. She also told him that many boys at school looked at her the same way those men had. That was why she had no patience for any of them, and why she refused to engage with them at all. Ugami took in everything she said and finally understood her fully. Then he turned and headed home. On the way, a group of kidnappers struck without warning. They seized Norin and sped away in a car. Ugami saw it happen but could not catch them. The vehicle was too fast. Without hesitation, he climbed a nearby tower, scaling it with the ease of someone who had done far more dangerous things. When he reached the top, he aimed his gun at the car and fired a tracker onto it. The device stuck, and from that point on, Ugami knew exactly where they were going. When the kidnappers reached their hideout, they wasted no time. They surrounded Norin and demanded she tell them everything about her father's experiment on the wasps. They told her that her father's company had developed a special formula and that they wanted it. If she refused to cooperate, they would kill her. Norin told them the truth. She knew nothing about her father's work. They did not believe her. Then Ugami appeared. Moving swiftly, he covered Norin's eyes so she could not see his face. Then he went to work. He cut through the kidnappers one by one with practiced efficiency. There were many of them, but it made no difference. He grabbed Norin and moved toward the exit, eliminating every man who stepped into his path. The kidnappers were stunned. None of them could comprehend how a child possessed that kind of strength and precision. They had no idea who they were dealing with. In the end, Ugami got Norin out safely. Every kidnapper was down. He said nothing to her about who had saved her, gave her no name, no explanation, and disappeared. The next day, Ugami sat in class looking visibly troubled. Math had become a serious problem for him. No matter how much his teacher explained, he could not grasp it. When he got home, he turned to Nekoda and asked if he could give him a math lesson to help him improve. Nekoda shook his head and admitted that math had never been his subject. He had no interest in it from childhood and could not help. Just then, Eri called Ugami with some information about the wasp. He seized the opportunity and asked if she could give him a math lesson instead, since he was struggling badly with it. Eri refused. She was exhausted from long hours in the lab, and had no energy left to teach when she got home. Ugami had nowhere left to turn, and the frustration settled heavily on him. The following day, he shut himself in the school library and worked through math problems with grim determination but got nowhere. As he sat there, staring at the page, he noticed a boy at the table across from him. His name was Ryu, and he was clearly gifted at mathematics. Ryu looked over at Ugami's work, then offered to walk him through the problems and show him how to solve them properly. Ugami accepted without hesitation. He began spending time with Ryu regularly, and Ryu taught him everything patiently and thoroughly. With consistent effort, Ugami eventually scored full marks on a math assignment. He was overjoyed and immediately told Ryu, even going so far as to call him his master. Ryu was not particularly pleased with the title, but he said nothing about it. To celebrate, they went to a nearby restaurant together. While they ate, Ryu opened up about his past. He told Ugami that his only wish in life was to become a doctor. His mother had died of an illness when he was young, and after losing her, his father had abandoned both him and his sister. The two siblings had gone to live with their grandmother, who raised them with care, but she too eventually passed away from illness. After losing her, Ryu made a firm decision he would become a doctor and dedicate his life to caring for the sick. Hearing all of this, Ugami's respect for him deepened. Ryu was genuinely kind, and that was something Ugami did not come across often. They left the restaurant and went their separate ways. When Ugami returned, he found his room in complete disarray. Nekoda took one look at it and immediately started cleaning, unable to leave it the way it was. The next day at school, the atmosphere was lively. It was the day of the school festival, and every student was buzzing with excitement over the various activities and group events. Ugami felt no interest in any of it. He went straight to Ryu, who was also undecided about which group to join. Ugami told him flatly that all of them seemed like a waste of time. Then Ryu's sister, Shiraishi, appeared. She walked up to Ugami and invited him to join her group, which was focused on preparing fresh food. She was running a trial session. Students could come, try it out, and decide whether they wanted to join. Ugami turned her down and started to walk away. Shiraishi stopped him with a single condition. If he refused to at least try the trial, she would not allow Ryu to spend time with him. Backed into a corner, Ugami joined the trial. A few other boys were already there. Shiraishi began by making rice and explaining each step to the group. To his own surprise, Ugami found himself genuinely interested. The work felt satisfying in a way he had not expected. After school, he hurried home and answered a call from Eri. She wanted to tell him that she had received the soap he had bought for her, the one from Norin's shop, and that she loved it. After the call with Eri wrapped up, he spoke briefly with his daughter. She was startled by his voice, which sounded completely different from what she remembered. He could not bring himself to tell her the truth, and said nothing about it. The following day, Ugami officially joined Shiraishi's food-making group. She was visibly delighted he had been the first to sign up. When he arrived, he found Norin already there. She was surprised to see him. She had expected him to join something more physical, not a cooking group. Still, she looked at him coolly and told him two things: not to speak to her during the work, and not to breathe a word to anyone about her shop. Ugami stayed quiet. Then Nekoda called. The news was not good. Ugami's transformation showed no signs of reversing. There was a real possibility that he would remain in his child body permanently. On top of that, Nekoda passed along another piece of information. Norin's father had made a public announcement: any man who married his daughter would be granted full authority over the pharmaceutical company. The news landed heavily. That night, Ugami went to the ramen shop. He sat down with Norin and brought up the announcement directly. Norin was furious. She could not believe her father had made such a decision on her behalf, without a single word to her. The next scene showed the school grounds in chaos. A crowd of boys had gathered around Norin, every one of them trying to propose to her. She stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed and cornered. Then, her eyes found Ugami somewhere in the crowd. She walked straight toward him, stood beside him, and told everyone clearly he was her boyfriend, and they needed to stop. A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Nobody was pleased about Norin choosing Ugami as her boyfriend. Almost instantly, the entire school turned against him. He and Norin slipped behind a wall, away from the crowd. Norin quickly apologized, fully aware that she had created a serious mess. Every student now resented him, and many were already looking for ways to make him pay. Ugami, however, remained completely calm. He knew no one in that school could truly harm him, and so he accepted the role boyfriend to the most popular and beautiful girl in the school. But it did not end there. A group of boys cornered him on school grounds and attacked him. Their demand was simple. He had to break things off with Norin, so one of them could take his place. Ugami said nothing. He crossed his arms, took a running start, and leapt cleanly from the third-floor building, landing below and walking away without a word. Everyone who witnessed it stood frozen. None of them could explain what they had just seen. Later, back in the classroom, Ugami sat quietly when two girls, Takeda and Baba, approached him. Takeda scolded him for keeping his relationship with Norin a secret, then quickly shifted to a warning. She told him that a particularly dangerous and obsessive group operated within the schoolboys who had fixated entirely on Norin and wanted her for themselves. They had already heard that Ugami was her boyfriend, and they were not going to let it go. She told him to be careful because they were capable of going to extreme lengths. Ugami listened and said nothing. He already knew that none of them posed any real threat to him. After school, back at the house, Nakoda sat him down and shared what he had uncovered about the pharmaceutical company. The wasp that had transformed Ugami into a child had not been created by accident. Norin's father had engineered it with a specific purpose. He wanted his daughter to marry the most skilled and capable man alive, so he had used the wasp to transform the world's most dangerous assassins into boys the same age as Norin. It was all a calculated plan. Nakoda pointed out that this was actually a perfect opportunity. Ugami was already positioned exactly where Norin's father intended. Ugami, however, wanted no part of it. The idea of marrying a girl the same age as his own daughter sat deeply wrong with him. Meanwhile, elsewhere, another boy was preparing to enter the picture. His name was Shin, a powerful and highly skilled assassin, who had also been transformed into a schoolboy by Norin's father. He was now on his way to her school, ready to make his move. The following day at school, Norin approached Ugami and handed him a fountain pen. It was elegant and clearly expensive. She explained that her father had given it to her with specific instructions. She was to present it to the boy she had chosen. Ugami stared at the pen, unsettled by what it implied. The full picture had not yet revealed itself. Then, Shin walked into the classroom. His introduction to the class was a disaster. He was visibly nervous, stumbled through his words, and quietly took his seat. But shortly after settling in, he slipped a love letter to Norin. She opened it and read it, clearly taken aback. In the letter, Shin declared that he wanted to marry her and spend his entire life with her. He asked her to meet him outside after class. When the class ended, Norin went to the meeting spot with Ugami beside her. Shin arrived and attempted to speak with her directly. Norin found herself genuinely struck by his appearance. Shin was without question the most attractive boy in school. But without hesitating, she slapped him sharply across the face and told him never to pull something like that again. She already had a boyfriend and had no intention of leaving him. The firmness of her words stunned Ugami more than he expected. Shin, stung and furious, then revealed something important. The fountain pen that Norin's father had given her was not merely a gift. It was a symbol of legitimacy. Whoever held that pen was recognized as Norin's true boyfriend. Without it, the claim meant nothing. That revelation made Norin's jaw tighten. Then, Shin issued a challenge directly to Ugami. The rules were simple. If Shin could place his pacifier into Ugami's mouth, he won, and Norin would become his. If he failed, he would apologize and walk away from her permanently. Ugami accepted without a second thought. He was confident. The game began. Shin was fast, sharper, and more precise than Ugami had anticipated. He tried every approach, every angle, every trick at his disposal to get the pacifier into Ugami's mouth, and every attempt fell short. Ugami immediately recognized what Shin was a trained fighter like himself and adjusted his strategy accordingly. Rather than engaging him directly, Ugami simply ran, moving through the school and eating up time. Every time Shin closed the distance and came within a breath of success, Ugami found a way out. In the final moments, Shin launched a barrage of pacifiers all at once and managed to bind Ugami's hands with a rope, leaving him seemingly out of options. But Ugami moved with precision. At the last instant, he slipped a wire between the pacifier and himself, stopping it dead at exactly the right moment. The game was over. Ugami had won. Shin stood still for a long moment. Then, quietly, he acknowledged what he had witnessed. Ugami was more powerful and more intelligent than him. He apologized and conceded that he would not challenge him again. The girls who had been watching erupted. They were thrilled. Ugami had faced down the most formidable rival in the school and walked away without losing once. After that, when all of them reached the class, their teacher told them that they had all completed their group activity quickly, so they could leave the class. All the students went outside, but Ugami was very angry because his test had not gone well at that time, and he was very depressed. However, Ryu stopped him and told him to work hard next time and to join the group activity happily. Meanwhile, Norin was very happy because all the students were busy in the group activity and no one disturbed her by saying "I love you," so she felt very relieved. But Ugami's condition was not good. He had not done his work well, so he told this to Nakoda after coming home. Nakoda knew that it was not something Ugami needed to worry about, and then said to Ugami that tonight his plan was to go to Mama's place for dinner, where Eri was coming for him. So Ugami left the house that night and went towards Mama's place. Norin saw him while she was closing her uncle's ramen shop. She quickly started following him. Ugami reached Mama's shop, and Mama was very happy to see him, as Ugami had come there after a long time. But Norin was shocked and wondered who Ugami was. Inside, when Ugami was eating his dinner, Eri suddenly came and tried to talk with him. She told him something about Norin, which made Ugami very angry, because she thought that Ugami would now marry Norin, but that seemed impossible to him. Due to this, he became angry. Then Eri told him about his past, when he was young. At that time, they had been a couple, and Ugami had not spent his life happily or enjoyed it. So Eri gave him advice that he now had a chance to spend his life with happiness and enjoyment. After some time, they both left the shop and went outside, where Norin was too shocked to see him with Eri, a beautiful and elegant woman. She thought a lot about who this woman was and who Ugami really was. The next day, when they reached the class, Ugami's marks were not very good in many subjects, so he thought that he could work harder next time. But Norin kept thinking about him who he really was. She also noticed something about Ugami. His way of speaking felt like he talked with everyone, whether they were older or younger, in the same manner. But she could not say anything at that moment and went to Shiraishi's department for practice, where they learned how to put buttons on a shirt correctly. However, Norin and Ugami did not do it well at first because they did not know the correct way to put buttons on a shirt. But Shiraishi showed them the best way, and they all learned it easily. Shin also joined their group at that time. Then they all started making rice for the baseball players, and after finishing, they all reached the baseball ground. The seniors were happy to see them, but one player named Tendo was unhappy to see Ugami with Norin, because he also wanted to marry Norin, but Norin did not like him at all. She thought that Tendo looked like a giant monster. His height and build were totally terrifying, so she did not like him. But Tendo could not stop himself and gave a challenge to Ugami to play a baseball game with him. The one who won the game would become Norin's boyfriend. Ugami accepted the challenge happily, but all the other students were shocked, because Tendo was a very popular student who had won many tournaments in many games. So they thought it was impossible to defeat him. After coming back to class, Norin was angry at Ugami and asked why he had accepted the challenge, saying that now they were in big trouble because they could not defeat Tendo's team. But Shin and the other students agreed with Ugami that they could do their best to win the challenge no matter what. They believed that they could achieve anything with hard work and determination. The game started on the school ground where all the students were very happy. Tendo started the game, and Ugami was shocked by his speed, which was too fast. The team thought they could not defeat him, but Ugami believed in himself. He quickly picked the ball and threw it toward the goal with his full power. However, on the way, Tendo stopped the ball and shocked them all because his skill in the game was very great. But Ugami thought it was nothing in front of him, and he did not get depressed. Meanwhile, all the girls were in great depression and thought that they would lose the game, but this was not the truth, and Ugami knew this. During the game, Ugami faced a very difficult situation. Shin lost his pacifier and he could not function without it. His body became weak without the pacifier, so Ugami quickly called out to Norin to get Shin's extra pacifier, which was in the classroom. She quickly ran toward the class. Meanwhile, Ugami stood in the middle of the goal box and caught many balls from Tendo, not allowing any goals. However, during this, he became very injured because stopping the balls hurt his face. On the other side, Norin reached the classroom, picked up Shin's pacifier, and then returned to the ground. At that moment, Tendo was close to making a goal, but in the middle, Norin threw the pacifier to Shin. He quickly stopped Tendo's ball after getting his pacifier and shocked them all, showing that he had returned to his full strength. Taking advantage of this, Ugami quickly picked the ball and threw it toward the goal, but he failed because he threw the ball in the wrong direction. Everyone became sad, but Ugami was happy and started a plan with Tendo. He made Tendo angry by saying that Tendo had no power to defeat him, and that he could easily win the game. He also told him that he had no killing skills like him, which were helpful for winning the game. Tendo became angry and quickly made a goal, which shocked everyone. But at that moment, Ugami knew that the next turn was theirs. So he quickly came in front of Tendo again and threw the ball toward the goal. In the middle, Tendo tried to stop him but failed because the punching speed of Ugami was very high. He injured Tendo's feet and then made a goal. After this, all the team members on Ugami's side were very happy, but they had not yet won the game. Both sides were equal. The second round started, and during the play, while pushing the ball toward his teammate, Tendo accepted his defeat and apologized for his mistakes. They all became very happy, but Tendo's teammates were not happy and became angry at him. Then Shiraishi came and bandaged his feet, which shocked Tendo very much because he could not accept that someone from the opposite side helped him like this. Then Shiraishi returned to her room, where all her friends were, and they became very happy about Ugami's victory. In the middle of the celebration, Tendo came to the room and confessed to Shiraishi. He told her that he loved her and wanted to spend his whole life with her. Shiraishi felt happy, but her brother Ryu became angry because he did not like Tendo. Before he could do anything, Ugami picked Tendo up and took him outside. Outside, Tendo told Ugami that he wanted to be with Shiraishi and that he was serious because she was very kind. He also praised Ugami and his skills, saying they were very strong and powerful. Tendo told him that he had never faced a player like Ugami in his entire gaming life. All of this was secretly heard by Norin,